I thought I'd play a bit of blues today. Going to be doing a bit of rhythm, some fills, maybe some lead, so a little bit of everything. And I thought I'd bring this video into my Mindful Noodling series. And if you've not come across this thrilling series before, then it's all about being able to pick up a guitar and play something musical rather than just noodling away or spewing out the same old licks. And to do this, it's helpful to have a tempo, a rhythmic feel and a chord progression in mind, and then you're able to improvise within that structure, and it's generally going to sound a lot more musical. That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to begin by having a bit of a noodle myself, and what I'm about to play and many of the ideas that I'm going to be discussing in this video I'm going to tab out, and all of that stuff's going to be available up on the Patreon page, so check that out if you're interested. Let's get started. We're in the key of A, and the first, perhaps most important thing to do is to get familiar with the chords and with the harmony before you can start doing this kind of thing, playing fluently, mixing up chords and fills and lead guitar ideas. You really need to know the chord progression inside out and have it memorized, have some options all over the fretboard. And what we're dealing with today is an 8-bar blues, not the more common 12-bar blues, though 8-bar blues, you will come across it from time to time. The most famous example of an 8-bar blues that I can think of is the tune Key to the Highway, which you might have heard, the Eric Clapton version of that. I think originally it was a big Bill Brunsey tune, but that's a good place to start if you're not familiar with the 8-bar blues. And it looks something like this. So we're in the key of A, it's starting on the 1 chord, which is A, or an A7 chord. Let's play an A7 down here in the first position, and then we're going straight to the 5 chord in the 2nd bar, so going to E or E7, and then the 4 chord, D or D7, 2 bars on that, and then we're back to the 1 chord, the 5 once again, and then back home to 1, and some kind of turnaround. So commonly you might go 1, 4, 1 and 5. There are lots of variations, substitutions, alternate chord changes you might come across, but I think this is a solid starting point for an 8-bar blues. And the first thing to do is to try and get that memorized and just play it in a very simple kind of a way. So you might just start out playing these very basic open chords and just strumming through the chords, 4 strums on each chord, and just trying to internalize that form. So got 2, 3, 4. There's nothing at all wrong with just playing it in a very simple way like that. In my strumming hand it was just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Got that kind of swing feel. You've got those swung 8 notes that you're feeling on the upstroke of the pick. But if you want to take things further, particularly if you want to get into adding some fills and some embellishments, then it's nice to be able to play these chords in some different places on the fretboard and to have some options wherever you are on the neck. So you might be able to play these chords up in and around the 5th position on the guitar, which is some quite common bar chord voicing. So we could play this A7 chord here, just start barring at the 5th fret, and then I might go to the 4 chord like this. This is a D7 with a 5th string root and the 5 chord. I could play like this. This is starting on the 7th fret. So both of these are kind of C form dominant 7th chords. And then I could play through the same chord progression but using these kind of bar chord shapes. And perhaps we could inject a little bit more rhythm with our strumming hand. So something like this might work well. Alternating between kind of muted strums on the lower strings and then some accents where I'm playing the higher notes in the chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I think that's quite effective, particularly if you're just playing on your own. It kind of simulates a kind of bass player and a drummer a little bit when you're playing in this kind of style. So we could take that round the chord progression. Lots more options with these chords. I'm not going to give you an exhaustive library of different chord voicings right now, but just to give you some examples with the 1 chord, with the A7 chord all over the fretboard. So we could start down here with this open A7 chord, which we've already seen. There are variations on that. You could play this one is nice too. So just I've got the 2nd fret with my 1st finger and then playing the 3rd fret on the top strings. Just another way of playing the same chord. If we come up into this next area of the neck, I might play this chord. This is actually an A9th chord. So we've got 4 on the A string, then 5, 4, and then 5. That's kind of a rootless A9 chord. You could include the root if you wanted to, just by bringing your thumb around the top of the neck, but you don't necessarily need that note in there at all. But that's a good kind of 1 chord for a blues in A. Kind of got in this next position that bar chord shape which I just spoke about. There are variations on this. We could add in the pinky at the 8th fret on the 2nd string. It's that kind of Beatles approved kind of voicing, and I quite often do this shape as well. So thumb around the top of the neck, muting the 5th string, and I've just got this little 3-note shape on the middle string. So 5, 6 and 5. On into the next position. This is a shape that I use quite a lot. This is a 4th string root A7, so fret 7, 9, 8 and then 9, and then coming into the next area of the neck we could perhaps play is the C grip that I spoke about earlier, this time playing an A7, and we could play the A9 in this position as well, and then we could come up into the 12th fret area. We've got this another kind of bar chord dominant 7th option, so I'm barring across 5 strings. The root is at the 12th fret on the 5th string, and then I've got 14 on the D and 14 on the B. So I'm not trying to be completely comprehensive here, but you can see how we've got some A7 or A9 shapes in just about every single area of the fretboard, and that's really good to have those shapes to play around with if you're trying to connect them with other chords and to add in little fills between the chord changes. So we've got some chords, we've got a basic kind of rhythmic feel there. If you wanted to spice things up a little bit further, one easy way of doing that is to add in a little bit of movement with the bass notes. That was one of the things I was doing in my little play through. So just very simple things really, like connecting chords with passing tones. They could be scale tones or chromatic tones. So if we're playing that one chord, for example, I might just walk up into that root note from a couple of frets below. The important thing here is the timing, so we want to hit that chord on beat 1, so we have to come in with those extra notes just before, in anticipation of that downbeat. So it's 1 and 2 and 3. You can do the same thing leading into the other chords as well. So going to the 5 chord, we've got, and going to the 4 chord, I was walking down. You're aiming for this root note, but just starting a couple of frets above, walking down. Very, very simple ideas, but it's effective. If you've got a good sense of where the beat is, you can just throw in these little variations, and you're still just using these very simple chord voicings. It starts to make things sound a little bit more interesting. Another very easy thing you can do is just to use these little side steps with the chords. So just approaching the chord from 1 fret below or 1 fret above. It's something I do all the time in the blues. Very easy to do, and it's very effective. And you wouldn't want to overdo any of these devices, so you need to sort of exercise taste when you're doing this stuff. But all of these ideas are very effective, and they're worth kind of playing around with and just kind of having in your vocabulary. So this works in a very similar way. The timing is the key thing here, so we're aiming to hit the chords on the 1 on the downbeat, so we're just anticipating that with a little side step, an approach chord from below. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Going the other way down to the 4 chord, and back to the 1. Approach from above. As I said, probably overdoing it a little bit there, just to kind of give you an example of how it would work. But if you just threw a couple of those in each 8-bar chorus, then it would be effective. Something else I was doing was this little riff. Which is another quite common idea. It's really a riff that fits that dominant 7th chord sound. So over that A7th chord, playing this idea. So I've got 3 notes at the 5th fret on strings 2, 3 and 4, just barring those 3 notes with my first finger. Then I'm slamming down my 2nd finger at the 6th fret on the 3rd string. Then I've got this little bar at the 7th fret on strings 2, 3 and 4, and then going back to that first shape, and then just playing an A root note at the end of the phrase. And the timing is 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can just take that phrase round this 8-bar blues. So just thinking about your 6-string root bar chords. And it's an effective little idea. So. So we got some solid rhythm guitar ideas happening. Now I want to move on and talk about some fills and some lead guitar ideas. And I've done a few videos where I've spoken about this kind of combining rhythm and lead guitar thing. And the most important thing to bear in mind here is that you're always thinking about timing. You're always trying to feel the beat and play in time. and you always need to know where you are in the chord progression. You need to know exactly which bar you're in this 8-bar form, and then you can play something appropriate and then come out of it and fall back into some kind of rhythm guitar ideas, and you've always got a sense of that chord progression happening in the background. What you don't want to happen is you start doing a lead guitar idea and then the kind of the form and the timing goes out the window, and then it's very hard to recover from that. What I did when I played through just now, I started off keeping things very simple. I just wanted to establish the rhythm and the feel and the chord progression, and I think I played 3 choruses in total. So the first 8-bar chorus was just the chords, and then gradually I started throwing in some fills, and then it evolved into a bit more of a kind of guitar solo. But I didn't want to launch into that straight away without establishing the basic harmony. And I'm not going to take you through exactly what I played just now. That would take too long, and I can't remember exactly what I played. Anyway, I will write it out note for note in my tab for those of you who are interested. But perhaps the more important thing here is just to grasp the general concepts, and then you can improvise and do this kind of thing in your own way. And my approach here is to try and play something that's appropriate to the chord we're on at any given moment. So I'm thinking often about chord tones and arpeggios. Of course, with this kind of thing, A minor pentatonic, A major pentatonic is going to work great. I do that some of the time, but often I'm thinking more in terms of chord tones. So over the 1 chord, for example, I think my opening little lick was something like this. A classic blues phrase. So you could see that as being A major pentatonic. But I'm really thinking about the chord shape here. So I'm hitting the 3rd of the chord. That's the root. And I'm bending up to the major 3rd. And then you've got a nice 1 chord phrase. So it's 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to the 5 chord. Now I'm thinking, I want to play some E7 stuff. So I've got my chord shape here. This is, in a way, it's exactly what I was talking about in, I think, the last video I did. It was on country guitar stuff, and really my thinking doesn't change whether I'm playing blues, whether I'm playing country, whether I'm playing almost any other style for that matter. I'm thinking about what chord am I playing over. How can I play something that's going to fit that chord and is going to be kind of style appropriate. So over this E7 chord, you could think E7 arpeggio. You could think E major pentatonic. You could think E minor pentatonic. All of those things will fit the chord, so it's kind of down to you just to come up with just a nice phrase. You might even just think in terms of what do I want to hear? Am I hearing a nice kind of melody over that chord? That can sometimes be the best approach of all. But over this chord, something like that could work. So I've got my it's again root 2nd, bending up to the major 3rd. That's a nice kind of phrase. There's all kind of E7 stuff. Going down to the 4 chord, you can kind of do a similar thing, but take those ideas down 2 frets. All kind of D7 stuff. Then we can head back to the 1 chord. And then at the end you've got kind of a little kind of turnaround spot. So the last 2 bars are generally the part in a blues or in a jazz tune where you can play some kind of turnaround. It's a series of chords that takes you back to the top again. So this is where you could perhaps throw in some stock phrases. Any kind of blues or jazz player worth their salt is going to have a little vocabulary of these phrases. You might just play them the same way that you've learned them, or better is just to have these basic ideas that you can mould and manipulate in real time, so you're not always playing them exactly the same way. And I think at the end of my first chorus I played a phrase like this. So it's 1, 2. So very classic kind of blues turnaround. So I'm starting on this G note here. So this is the flat 7. And I'm descending. I'm targeting this note here. This is the note I'm aiming to finish on. This is the major 3rd. And then outlining that 5 chord sound. So this is a really useful phrase. It's worth learning that, and you're trying to find those notes elsewhere on the fretboard as well, so you can play it in this position too. It's a nice place to play it. Where else? So lots of options there. Some of those actually feel a bit more comfortable to me than others, but it's interesting to explore this stuff. And another little turnaround idea which I think I played was this one. Absolutely classic turnaround idea, a must-know kind of blues lick, and it's very simple. We just got the root note on top. I'm playing an A at the 10th fret on the 2nd string, and I'm coming down chromatically on the 3rd string from a G down to an E. So it's kind of outlining those turnaround chords a little bit, I think. So it kind of perfectly fits those chords. And you can do that in other places too. So that's on the top 2 strings. You can play it down here. Then for my final chorus, I wanted to raise the intensity a little bit, so things got a little bit flashier, a little bit busier. So I think I started on the 1 chord with something like that. That's just that major pentatonic thing once again. And then onto the 5 chord. So there, thinking maybe E minor pentatonic over that 5 chord. And then over the 4 chord. Now this is where I went into something slightly jazzy sounding, a bit of a kind of noodly jazz. Like I don't know if it was quite appropriate, but it's what came out, and it was this kind of that kind of jazz arpeggio idea. So let me just explain what's going on there. So we're playing over this D7 chord, the 4 chord, and just thinking chord tones or extended chord tones really. So you've got your D7 arpeggio, those notes you can find there. You could think D ninth as well. So I've got D, F sharp, A, C, and then an E as well. And one way of accessing that kind of a sound is to play a 7th arpeggio off of the 3rd. It's a so-called 3 to 9 arpeggio, which is something that jazz players like to talk about a lot. So if you think about your chord shape here, the 3rd of that chord is this F sharp note, and from that F sharp note I can actually play an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 arpeggios. So it's F sharp, A, C, E, and F sharp. And what that is giving you in relation to the chord that we're playing over, it's the 3rd, the 5th, the flat 7, and the 9. It's a cool thing to play around with. It gives you that jazzy, extended kind of a sound. And yes, you've got to be a little bit careful. It's not going to work in every kind of blues context. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to play some simple, dirty kind of pentatonic licks when you're playing the blues. But if you want a bit of jazz sophistication, then this can be a pretty good one. So over that 7th chord, just thinking about the 3rd, and then playing that minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. Instant jazz sophistication. And what in fact I think I did after I played that jazzy phrase was just do some crazy kind of bending stuff, just to kind of contrast with what came before. I'll just show you one more lick, which is what I played at the very end, and I had more of a chordal kind of turnaround idea. So this, so it's really a variation on this, which I'm sure some of you know. So this kind of double stop thing, 5 on the D, 5 on the B, taking that down. You can kind of fill those double stops out with some extra notes if you like. So this A7 chord, 5, 6, 5 and 5, and then play this little diminished shape, and then drop the notes on the 4th and 2nd strings, and then come down to this long A chord. Those are some of the ideas I was playing, and more importantly, it's what I'm thinking, the kind of concepts that were behind those musical ideas. That's the most important thing here. And then you can have a go doing something similar. You can really do this at whatever level you're currently at. So you can keep this really simple. Just play some simple chords. Just try and keep the rhythm really solid. Then you can maybe branch out into some of those other voicings, connecting the chords. Then you could start adding in some lead guitar stuff and some simple solo ideas, and you can gradually build on that until it becomes more confident and more sophisticated. And the more you do this kind of thing, it just becomes natural, and you get into the habit of always thinking about timing and thinking about the chords that you're playing over, and everything just sounds a bit more interesting, I think, rather than that just sort of aimless noodling thing that you very often hear guitar players doing. And I've said I'm absolutely as guilty of that as any other guitar player, but I am trying to get away from that. And whenever I pick up a guitar, I do like to try and make it sound musical these days. Let me take you through the gear that I'm using today. Decided to pick up my Vox Virage. I've not used this guitar in a video for quite a while, and it's a very cool guitar. I've had this for quite a few years. I got it off eBay for a really good price, and when I remember when it first came out, and it was very well reviewed, and it was very expensive, and it didn't really take off, and I guess people were just selling theirs off quite cheaply, so I kind of bought this at the right time. But for me, this is a bit of a modern classic guitar design. I think it looks really cool, and it's got these really interesting pickups as well. I forget the name of them, but they each controlled by these 3-way switches. So you've kind of got a humbucker sound, and then a fat single coil, and then more of a kind of single coil type of sound. So you've got lots of tonal options with this guitar. And today I was just on the bridge humbucker, going through my Fender Princeton. Just had one pedal today, and that was the small speaker overdrive from Great Eastern Effects, which is a really great little pedal. I've not used it for a while. I tend to kind of default to the same old overdrive pedals just because I have them out and ready to go. But I thought I'd get this down from the shelf today, and it sounds really, really good. It's nothing else quite like this particular pedal. I sometimes think that all overdrive pedals sound broadly similar, and there are just so many of them, and most of them sound pretty samey. But this one is genuinely quite a unique sounding pedal to my ears. I've no idea what's going on inside it in terms of the circuitry or any of that stuff, but it has got a very particular sound which I do like. So I'll just demonstrate that for you now. So this is the guitar just going straight into the Princeton. Turning on the pedal. that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. There are a couple of other mindful noodling videos that you can find elsewhere on this channel, should you have that appetite for more of this kind of thing. And as I've already said, you can get the tab for most of the stuff that I've been talking about today, including my little intro noodle, over on the Patreon page. And you'll also be able to access what has now become quite a huge archive of past tabs and backing tracks. So check that out if you like. And I'll see you next time for another video.